Well, Miko, it's fantastic to be able to talk to you about Sebastian. It was a really moving, really provocative film, and I thought to start off with, so the profession of sex work is very much in the topical conversation at the moment. So, what was it about the profession that you wanted to explore with your film?
Well, I really wanted to approach it in a really non-judgmental, frank and authentic way, and really look at sex work as something that someone can do out of choice rather than for lack of them. We've so often seen sex work represented as a kind of last resort for a character or something
Mm.
that someone has to go into because they've experienced trauma of some kind. And I really wanted to, interrogate those presumptions in the depiction of it.
So when I was watching it, I got this is my impression of the film that what you get through Rory Mollica's central performance of Max Sebastian is you get there's a split between on the one hand there's like a transactional thing going on with the development of the book and how he's using the experiences to inform the book, but also lust and desire as well, and it seems to be about a personality that's split in half. Like, did you see the story like that?
But I really wanted the audience in a sense that at some point in the film kind of almost to ask this question of is Max Sebastian doing sex work so that he can write about it? Or is he choosing to write about it so that he has the sort of the license to do it in a way?
Yeah.
So he really, through his writing, his autofiction, he's really exploring kind of different sides of himself and perhaps really, as you say, trying to access this part of himself that is kind of inaccessible otherwise and access this kind of split part of himself. Yeah.
Because the film we do briefly see Max's family back in Scotland, but I thought the interesting thing about the film is it doesn't it leaves a lot to our imagination in terms of what happened there. I imagine was that a deliberate stylistic choice on your part?
Yeah, I really wanted the character to it's really it's such a kind of journey of self-discovery for Max Sebastian, and I really wanted the audience also to go on this parallel journey of discovering who the character is and really begin from sort of quite a blank slate in a way. And I do like it when there is it's sort of space and kind of room in the character to still allow the audience to kind of project themselves into the character as well and make their own draw their own conclusions and I think that is always fascinating and certainly some of the films that also inspired Sebastian as well like Piala's Another Amour, which is cited in the film as well. The lead character in that film as well is in many ways kind of at the beginning quite unknowable and we are really kind of getting to know them through the as the film goes on.
Yeah, because the way that Rory Mollica portrays the character, it's like it is interesting that we know bits and pieces of his routine and what's going on. And I thought that was a really it's the way he projected the character I thought was really interesting. And I wondered, there's a lot of assumptions about, I think, about film directors that they will turn on the camera, point it at the actor, and go like that. But clearly, you have to foster the right atmosphere to get the performance out of the actor, I imagine. Would that be correct?
Absolutely, and I mean we had like we were fortunate to have quite a long time to prepare as well, before as the shoot was postponed a couple of times,
Mm.
as film as financing of independent films can be quite tricky. So that allowed us with quite a long period of just spending time together with the script and kind of really making sure that going through every scene in detail, kind of making sure that we were in agreement about all the motivations, kind of beneath between the lines as well, and
Mm.
kind of beneath the surface of each scene. So absolutely, whilst like you see a surface in the film in that sense, but there was a lot of work that we did kind of underneath that surface to get to that point.
Well, how did you because he's in virtually every shot. I think he's in every shot of the film. Like how did you pick him for the role? Because he is fantastic in the film.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it was as I said, it's because it is such a journey of self-discovery, and I really wanted uh, the audience to kind of begin with this character as unknowable in a sense. So that's why it was important to. I always knew that I wanted to find someone who would be new to the audience, that the film would essentially be introducing to the audience. So we worked with we went through a fairly traditional casting process with casting director Martin Ware, and got tapes from kind of young actors across the country, and did a few rounds of auditions, quite a thorough search. But there was something already really from that first tape that I saw of Ruaridh that really kind of leapt out at me, from the screen, and there was such a kind of special energy, but also, as you can see in the film, such a real precision to his performance that really that was really important in kind of making those quiet moments what they are in that sense, and being able to really kind of express emotion almost like in a silent film at points.
Yeah. The other one of the other aspects I wanted to bring up was there's been a lot of discussion, and there continues to be a lot of discussion around the use of intimacy coordinators in sexually frank films, and one of the I think great achievements of your film is that it is very sexually frank and forthright as it perhaps should be. Like, were there intimacy coordinators? Did you employ those on the set?
Yeah, we worked with a really wonderful intimacy coordinator called Rufai Ajala. And it was the first time that I'd worked with an intimacy coordinator because, of course, it's a role that was created only in the past few years. And it was a great experience. They really helped with kind of very quickly crafting that sense of trust between the actors, and certainly on this film it felt very important and very useful to have that resource, because of course so many of the sex scenes are between Ruri and then between actors who might have been on set for just 1 or 2 days. So it was great to be able to have someone who had the had the skill to really make the actors bond really quickly, and make them feel safe together.
Yeah, there's one of the I thought the most cutting and impactful scenes in the film for me was where Max Sebastian walks in and there's a group, and he's not aware that he's walked into a group situation, and he's about to walk out, and then he gets the message on the phone that maybe suggests, oh, it might actually be beneficial to harness this
Yeah.
situation. Was that kind of like a pivotal moment for the character's development, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the first moment where I think he really feels the double life kind of threatened a bit, and kind of the privacy of the anonymity of the double life threatened, and him beginning to lose control in the sense that now he's no longer witnessed in this alter ego by just one client, but suddenly there's a room full of people who get to see him in his double life. But then if what I really did want to kind of underline there, and what was so kind of fascinating for me about that scene was that there we really do see, maybe for the first time so clearly, the idea that okay, whilst he's hesitating and whilst the situation might seem risky, he's deciding to stay in a sense, for the story.
Yeah, yeah. It's when you use the phrase double life, it's that's always been a very interesting concept, like both literature and film, to be able to mine that. I wondered, were there any other specific artistic influences that guided you in terms of that, in terms of the double life conceit?
Well, I think double lives are certainly something that are quite, prevalent in, the history of kind of queer cinema and literature in that sense, and something that a lot of queer people can relate to. Be it being a sex worker or be it simply, not having been open about one's sexuality. But otherwise, in terms of, artistic influences, definitely something that I guess looms quite kind of greatly like over the film is the history of French queer literature as well, and there are quite a few allusions that I'm making to some authors working within that kind of queer French queer autofiction tradition as well, like Cyril Collard or even Jean Genet and people in that kind of tradition.
And yeah, and then I suppose also in the queer tradition, you have the integration of Bret Easton Ellis in your film because Max is aiming to interview Bret Easton Ellis, and I suppose was it always on the cards to use Bret Easton Ellis as kind of an emblem like there, I suppose.
Yes, yeah, it was him from the first kind of treatment that I wrote.
Mm.
So I was relieved when we had the kind of got the license to use him ultimately in the film because
Oh, of course, because you see his face, so you would have had to have got the
there
right.
really wasn't a plan B in that sense. So he really but I think that there's so much about the way that he uses and kind of plays with autobiography and autofiction and kind of autobiographical truth and fiction and the boundary between those in his work that really spoke to the themes of this film that he it made so much kind of sense to include him.
Yeah. And last question, Miko, just a more general overview of like where do you see queer cinema standing at the moment? Do you think that we're in a positive place? Do you think there could be more could be done in terms of representation?
I think I do think that we'd be living through like a very fruitful period for queer cinema. I think generally, with the of course now we are going through a big slowdown and downturn in production, but I think that there really like there was a real awakening to the lack of queer representation 10, 15 years ago, and since then we've really seen a burgeoning of queer cinema kind of across the globe. So the fear is of course that with kind of downturn in production and also with all the very concerning political developments kind of across the world
Yeah.
that we will see a curtailing of that creativity. But I really hope that people will continue and filmmakers will continue working in a DIY way, perhaps, like if that's necessary to kind of be able to retain a radical edge to their filmmaking voices as well. So I'm still optimistic, but there are definitely concerns on the horizon as well.
Yeah. I want to just take that moment to call back to your previous movie, actually, a moment in the Reeds, which I thought was a really that was a really impactful film. So yeah, so Miko, it's been fantastic talking to you about Sebastian. Really hope the film does well. Thanks very much for talking with me.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.